Now, Josh, not sure what part of the podcast people are listening to at the moment, but we do have breaking news, literally. And that is that Andrew Fifita has announced his retirement from the NRL, and that is due to medical reasons. This is a story breaking from our good friend Dave Riccio. Oh, it's all happening. My alarms are going off. What's this alarm say? Fifita retires. So Riccio is reporting, and I believe that to be gospel. Fifita has announced his retirement from the NRL. He had talks with Manly and with Canterbury to go play next year. But what stopped that from happening, in inverted commas, quote, is the medicals. When you're leaving a club, you have an exit medical, which analyzes your body. The doc sat me down and ran me through it all. And the MRI scans showed I could keep playing, but I need to push through a fair few things that my body needs work on. That includes surgery on his left knee, and then adding tissues to realign the bones. He needed ankle surgery, a right shoulder reconstruction. His nose bone is collapsing, so he needed a nose reconstruction. His middle finger needed to be fused, right elbow, and a bunch of back teeth. So Andy's definitely suffered for his club, and that's why he will not be continuing on in the NRL. And that's pretty big news. And I am disappointed for him, but I'm happy as a Sharks fan, if you know what I mean, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, it's breaking news. We were just about to wrap up and it came through the system. And I am selfishly kind of happy about it because I never wanted to see the great man play against us and wanted him to retire in a Sharks jersey, and it sounds like that's going to be the case. But I'm also sad to see one of the legends of not just Cronulla, but of the modern era to be leaving the way he is. And you can tell he gave us bloody everything of him, because after that list of injuries and of that exit medical, it's no wonder he can't go on. I mean, what these guys do to their bodies for our entertainment is, I think, sometimes lost on us as fans. And I think if we knew half the truth of what they go through, we'd be bloody shocked. So full credit to Andrew. If this is how he finishes up, one of the great Sharks, gave me one of the greatest moments of my life with that try. So I'll always love the big man.
Yeah, and I think it's a good year for him to go out, like a thoroughly successful year for him on and off the field. We've got no indication about what's going to happen professionally with him from here on out, but we have, I mean, he's told us on the pod, and he's mentioned the media, that he definitely wants to do player welfare kind of things. So whether he comes back to Cronulla straight away in that role, or whether it's with the NRL, or maybe starts up his own business, I'm not sure. There's a number of ways he could go do that. But yeah, big news to finish the pod, Josh. And yeah, you're right. Gee, they put themselves through a lot, don't they?
Yeah. I don't think we could probably ever comprehend how these guys get to sleep at night, and the pain and the joy, and that comes with the money. So we got to, they get paid a lot of good money to do it, but they're still human beings at the end of the day, and they have a limit to what they can handle. And, guys like Andy, they probably push through that a lot.
Yeah. And I don't want to get too heavy right now because we are wrapping up, but we saw, or I don't know if people saw, but it was announced some of the findings after Paul Green passed away. Just this week, some tests were done on his body and his brain, and he was suffering from severe CTE. And I'm not going to start throwing words around that I'm not qualified to use, but the person who was looking at the results said they were some of the worst he'd seen. And that as well as as well as Mario Fennick's situation, that's got me thinking pretty heavily these days, Josh, about things. And like, I love this sport, and I love this sport because I love my club, and that's never, ever going to stop. But man, like, it's such a risky game to play. And yes, the rewards are great for a lot of people that play it. But But boy, oh boy, I really hope that we keep continuing with improving the concussion protocols. I can't see why they wouldn't, because there's lots of reasons to do it. But it just gets you thinking, man. Like,
it really puts things into perspective, I think, for life and for the sport in general, and why the HIA protocols are so important. And I know I'm as guilty as anyone of we get frustrated with it and losing players for games and weeks at a time, but it's really inconsequential in the grand scheme of things for these guys, their life and their family and their friends.
Yeah.
And
I'm past that, Josh, now, and I'm sure you'll be past it soon. Like, I'm not, when Dale Finucane's out 3 weeks with a concussion, I go, cool. Yeah. That's it. This is the full stop for me, because I've just reached that point now where it's like, it's just not worth it, man. Like, grand final, cool. But, I'm watching a show about a guy who put his body on the line for his club and for his family and friends, and he, he's dying. And it's just,
it's awful.
Too heavy on the show, but it's bloody sad and awful. And the fact that, and this is only one side of the story, but the fact that he hasn't overly been compensated for that, in hindsight, that's a whole other story. There's a lot of great work being done out there. We know that James Graham is very vocal about it. He's got a podcast out. He's always speaking about it. And there's lots of people doing good things, including the NRL, doing good things about it. But it does just, like, I just sort of sit there and go, was that worth it? Is this worth it?
Yeah.
Like, is that premiership, just...
And maybe it is. Maybe to some of them it is. And if you offered that to them, maybe they'd take it.
I could never speak for a player, like I never would, but I understand that theory. But it's just, and some guys are way luckier than others, and we've seen that.
Oh yeah,
and that's great. Like, the less people affected by this, the better. But I've grown up. I make a living out of watching people run into each other.
Mm-hmm.
As we talk, I'm working on similar things, and I'm got the NFL on, which is a whole other story. They're my two loves, NFL and rugby league, my two loves. And it's just like, what part am I playing in this? Like, that's where I go to in my weird brain. It's like,
you can't think like that though.
But I do.
Because, but what responsibility can you take for that?
I'm not saying responsibility, but I'm supporting this. I'm openly, Sharks membership's up. Here you go. Take some money. I want to come watch it again.
Yeah, I think that it's a slippery slope to think like that, because then it's ramifications for every single step you take in life. Or this, this lamb I bought was slaughtered somewhere, or this plastic bottle is going to maybe, be the tipping point of, the planets. It could be anything. So I don't think it's unfair on yourself.
No, and let's not talk. This is not turning into a thing about me, but
no, I know.
I'm just saying, like, I am deeply affected by what some of these people are going through.
No, it's awful, but I mean, it sadly, and I don't mean this to come across as crude, but it is part and parcel of the sport.
I got that. I'm so pleased where we're at now, where still can't be stopped, but they're doing things. They're bringing in harsher penalties. They're bringing in better recovery systems. So, more research. I think that's awesome. So that does take my mind off it quite a lot. But it's more just when, like, every couple of weeks, Steve Mortimer.
Yeah.
He's got this now. Mario Fennick's got this. And these are guys with high profiles. The list is endless. And yeah, it's a price you pay, but I'm glad now the price you pay is not necessarily going to be that. Like, I think that the vast majority of guys now will probably get away with it.
Well, you think so, because I mean, back then these guys were getting concussed the exact same way and getting back up and running 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
Whereas now for the most part, if it's bad enough, you don't play again for probably 2 weeks, and maybe that's not enough time, but it's something, and it's heading in the right direction. And you're exactly right. So
training is getting a lot more less physical as well.
Yes.
And that was always a big thing, which you and I would never have known, but a lot of concussions happen at training, even up until not that long ago, a few years ago. So That's one reason why we see less contact at training now.
Which is good on their bodies anyway. It's a win-win.
Yeah, and let's get this back to Andrew Fifita. He's got to go through nine. Well, I don't know if he has to go through all 9 surgeries or 7 surgeries, but that's what he would have had to have done
to play.
Which really, that's going to wipe out your whole off season, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. And he's probably just thought, you know what, I've had a good run, and now I can finish up and I can focus on the next stage of my life. He's got a beautiful young family.
Yeah.
That I'm sure he wants to see grow up, and he can be present a lot more, and then take up a nice gig at the club, hopefully, and stick around.
Yeah. Great stuff, Andrew Fifita. We thank you for your services. Wish you all the best in the future. You never know, he might come on the show. We'll see what he's doing, see if we can grab him. But Josh, thanks for sticking around for part 2, wherever you're listening to in this podcast. We'll put it in somewhere, but this is the second part of the podcast. And I'll sign off again, Josh, because I'm not sure what I'm doing here. But we'll say thanks, everyone, for listening. And we're back with another episode as soon as we can. This is SharkCast Pod. Up, Cronulla.